Knock, knock.
Who's there?
It's me, Sarah P.
Hey, Sarah, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. And thank you for joining me on the show today. Excited to have this conversation. So for all the listeners, I have Sarah Pellegrino on the show today. Myself and Sarah connected a few months back, actually on a podcasting panel that we delivered together, which was awesome. And this is the amazing thing about the world of podcasting is you get to connect with so many awesome people, and that results in getting lots of great guests. And I actually recorded last night with Nkechi, who was also on the panel with us. So I'm just getting everyone in on the show. So you are the host of the Fitness Business, or one of the hosts of the Fitness Business podcast. And obviously this is how we connected, and something that's very interesting to me and has captured my attention running my own business and being in the world of fitness. So, but what I'd love to hear a little bit about, Sarah, is what got you to the position in the industry where you now host a podcast, and how did your journey pan out in the world of fitness that got you here, just so we can learn a bit more about you.
Absolutely. So I have been a product of the fitness industry since before I was even born. So my dad sells fitness equipment, and he has for absolutely ever. When I was a baby, my mom used to sell for ballets when they were still around. So, I mean, I grew up in this industry. It was one of those things where we had a garage that was full of fitness equipment, never cars. We lived in New York too, so it got cold, right? But I was that kid just, running around the garage family home gym, playing on the EFX and the treadmills and walking around all the strength equipment, and just, while my parents were out there. So really just grew up in it, knew that it was something that my dad went to work and was so happy every single day. His customers were friends. They were never just clients. And it really the industry was just one with our life. So fast forward a little bit, I, dabbled in some athletic training in high school, thought I wanted to do something a little more sciencey in college, and took one class and realized that wasn't for me, right? So I was like, all right, let's do business school. That sounds like a great idea. So I was the crazy kid in business school that wanted to sell in fitness. Everyone else wanted to go to Wall Street or marketing or whatever the case may be, right? So I just kind of had to blaze my own trail. I really did. I took the business classes. I took the exercise and sports science classes that were applicable. Fast forward to graduation, I was connected with the people of ABC Financial, now ABC Fitness Solutions, and started my career with them two weeks after graduation. Wow. Shipped off to Arkansas and started with them. And gosh, I worked in billing and software for 5 years, and as of 2 years ago, took a little pivot into healthcare, selling corporate wellness. And a year ago, started my role with the Fitness Business podcast, hosting the value proposition.
I love it. An awesome story. And I love how we are, for directly influenced by what we see and exposed to as a kid, and then indirectly as well, right? So it was just having that, always seeing that, and it's kind of like the whole family business thing, right? Like you see something and you kind of follow in the footsteps, and indirectly it's interesting how it also influences our direction. So for me, I had a very opposite story. Like health and fitness was not something that was ever, no one in my house, we really knew what the gym was. It was the 80s, and it was just kind of, my dad did a very labor intensive job, so we didn't really see that. And I had the separate influence. I had to go out and find that as a teenager and throw myself into it. And, a bit of an all or nothing personality, especially back then. So it's interesting how when we don't see something, it makes us curious and we want to get it, or it's there, right? You're like, oh, it's a treadmill. It's just another treadmill that I've been seeing since I was born, right? So yeah, it's interesting how it kind of paves our journey. Now, what I will dive straight into from there is, obviously you mentioned the value proposition. So, I know you co-host the show, the Fitness Business podcast. So everyone go check that out. It will be it's in the show notes. So you can go find the links to it. Now, the value proposition. So what I'd love to start with is, when we're talking about value proposition, especially when it's specific to the fitness industry, what would be a great kind of layman's description of what a value proposition is?
So it's a great question. And I think it probably means something a little different to everyone, right? to me, a value proposition is what you do, how you do it, and who you do it for, and why you're better than anybody else. And I think that was something that selling software and billing for however many years, right? There are so many competitors in that market. And I had to learn at 22 years old, in order to sell a product and a service, I had to learn where we were better, how we served the clients more than someone else, right? And so that was something that really has just snowballed into my role with the Fitness Business Podcast and hosting the value proposition. I'm really able to like dig and ask people, what makes your company different? What is it that you do? And I think you can have a personal value proposition. It's like having a mission statement, right? It's like, why do you exist? And who are you here to serve? I think that same definition can be applied to individuals, entrepreneurs, smaller businesses, really however you want to apply that.
Yeah, it's so powerful and impactful. And I know that there's a lot of fitness entrepreneurs and a lot of personal trainers that will listen to the show. And I think personal training, I've worked in educating other trainers for a long time in many of my roles before I started the Nock Academy. And it's something that is a big struggle with a lot of people that step in, because you step in with the view of, I'm going to be a personal trainer and I'm going to help people get fit and lose weight. And I'm like, yeah, great. Join the other billion people doing that around the world. It has to be that, right? And you have to, and I love the way you described that. So you've got to understand what it is you're doing, how you're doing it, or how you're doing it differently, because obviously serving people as a trainer is very generic. Is how are you doing that differently? What is your approach? And how, and it isn't just, well, because I like lifting weights or whatever it is. It's like, how are you going to deliver that? How are you going to make your message land? And obviously who it's for, because I hear this a lot and I say it a lot, there's 8 billion people on the planet. So there's room for everybody. However, if you're casting your net over 8 billion people, you're likely just going to miss. And it's kind of a funnel, right? Like I used to explain this a lot when I was delivering kind of seminars for people building business, is you need to have the funnel the right way up sometimes. And you need to be able to funnel those people in towards it, as opposed to just kind of scattering it all over the place and missing the mark, right? So understanding how you do it and who you do it for. That's if you're listening now and taking notes, write that down. Very important.
100%. And I think if you take a personal trainer, it's like, yes, you could train everybody, or you could really cater your business and say, who do I enjoy working with more? Who am I most equipped to best serve? And start there and see what happens, right? I think right out of the gate, people try to be everything to everyone, and you just can't do that, right? It's just, you're so much more successful if you just really hone in on who you were made to serve.
Yeah, for sure. And would you think, Sarah, that changes a little bit? And this is basically just me digging for my own benefit now, and everyone else gets to listen. But when it comes to personal training, you might be looking at 10 or 15 clients. So being very specific like that is important. How I see it from what we do at the Nock Academy is that we're very much kind of small group training. So the market's a lot wider. Rather than managing 10, 15 clients, we might be managing 100 to 200 people spread out over the schedule. So for me, the value proposition is a little bit broader. And it's not that we necessarily do things that much differently. It's who we're catering to, right? Like we always talk to, that we're busy parents and busy professionals that are building a business around that. So if it works for us, it should work for you. So it can be a bit more generic if you're trying to maybe widen the net a little bit. Would you agree with that?
100%. Like and I'll give you my example, right? For the value proposition, someone coming on my show, I would want them to be a vendor of some sort in the fitness industry, right? That's not that could be broad. If you look at all other industries, like, no, that's very specific, right? But if you're in fitness, there's certain companies that have come to me and we've made it work, right? There's certain companies that are fitness providers. They're not necessarily a vendor. They're a club chain, or they're a chain, or, a franchise, or things like that. And of course we have made that work, but it's, at least have a baseline of where you want to start. And you're always going to have those one-offs. It's like, that may work. Let's try it. But, not being too broad, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I love that. And I think that's going to resonate. And I'm sure lots of people are now thinking, oh, where actually am I directing? And, and I think it comes back, actually, something I was speaking about last night when I was recording was that, you have to be okay in business a little bit with not everybody. I don't know if not everyone liking you is the right way to put it, but being okay if some people just scroll past your Instagram or click on your website and then click straight off of it. Like, it's okay to have that happen. And I think we have to learn how to deal with that in some capacity to be able to continue on the trajectory of whatever it is that, whatever our value proposition is.
I love that you brought that up, because I think personally, if I can use my own, again, I'm using myself as this may resonate with you, it may not. I hope it does. Let's chat offline, right? But for me, when, my Instagram, I'm 29. So I got my Facebook in high school. I got my Instagram in college. So I have had people on my Instagram for years, right? That maybe are not into fitness, that maybe are not into podcasts, and that maybe don't give two hoots that I host a fitness business podcast show, right? So if I took my, if I needed that pat on the back from my social media, I wouldn't maybe be where I am right now, right? Like that is, and I know if I'm speaking to fitness professionals, I know we all do this and it is so hard, but don't be so hard on yourself with social media. It is a great driver. It is a fantastic way to get your message out, but don't just look at your likes as the only people that are there to support you. Your clients might not be there yet. It may be in your email or on your website or from word of mouth. Like that really grows over time. And just use social media as a way to educate what it is that you do, like what it is. Like I literally have a post on my Instagram. It's like, hey, I host this show. And if you're wondering what it is, here is a really quick little synopsis, right? Educate, put up fun videos, but don't let that be the only way you pat yourself on the back with social.
Yeah, I think it's really important, and it is also important in the world we've been living in recently. And I'm a complete example of that. In that I totally went online and built a business online because of many factors, but obviously the pandemic being one of them. It's such a difficult thing to navigate because it is truly where you generate a lot of new business. However, like you said, am I putting as much effort into getting referrals from our members as I am to social media? Often not. And I have to remind myself, hey, you know what? These people they're probably going to have to see 7 videos, and the algorithm that'll probably mean it takes them multiple weeks to see that, or posts, and they're going to have to be exposed. And I think it is approximately in the world of marketing about 7 times someone needs to be exposed before they even pay attention to what you're doing. So that's a lot of work. Whereas people I'm training a week, and they're like, oh, I love it. You're like, this is the best thing ever. I love your platform. I'm like, great. So send me your friends. It takes one conversation or one reminder. And, we use the push notifications in our software. We talk at the end of our sessions about it, because that generates us, probably since we started, that's generated as much business as we have from new leads coming from social media. So that's a good message for everyone to realize. If that's a 50-50 split and that's the average, attack everything.
And I think to add on to that too, it's like, if you are asking your friends and your followers to follow your business and to support your business, what are you doing to support their business? Right? Like we're both podcast hosts and we're sharing information, we're working together. It's when you work together with, even if they are a competitor, who cares, right? Be nice. I'm always asking like, hey, what other podcasts are my followers leading, hosting, like how else can I help you, right? Because I think we really get in a rut on social where it's like, oh, like this post, like this comment. It's like, okay, why don't you put it out there first, right? Before you're asking for it back. And I think, again, with, you just said it, like send me your friends, right? Like it has to go both ways for that really to work.
Yeah, that's so important. And actually, I've been doing, a fair bit of, my own learning in regards to kind of online marketing and digital marketing, and then trying to learn a bit more about that world. And a lot of the people that I've spoke to or, watched their stuff, it's speaking to that. It's about building relationships. So we kind of laid off a lot on social media of asking for any support on social media, other than, following people that follow us and following some of our kind of circle. But it's just going out there and building relationships, like making sure I comment on stuff, making sure I message everyone that follows us, with these organic leads, and just building relationships before you ask for anything. and just giving back and serving, right? So rather than focusing on the likes or generating revenue or getting clients, it's just, I'm going to give you useful information that's out there, and I'm going to make a connection with people and just build that connection. And that's paid. That's, most of the leads we've generated have been from weeks of work on that stuff, right? And not with the purpose of necessarily getting them as a client. It's just building a relationship. And they say, oh, would you send me some information? Sure. Because then you're in complete control as the business, right? They're coming to you for it, and you're not really soliciting anybody, and sending, cold calling, so to speak, or the digital version of that. So that's been really powerful from us as a business.
So true.
Yeah.
Great.
So back to value propositions a little bit. That was very beneficial. I know people have got a lot from that. I guess the question that kind of comes up for me a little bit with that, now we understand what it is what makes a great value proposition. So when we kind of dig down a little into the specifics, is how would you clarify, I guess, or quantify what a good value proposition is and what it entails?
That's a great question. I honestly believe that the better value propositions are the companies that genuinely believe in their value proposition. So really, you can write out whatever mission statement, whatever value proposition, whatever company values you have. If you do not practice what you preach and what you write in stone, it means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because people will say you're talking about one thing and doing another, and it just falls flat. So again, your value proposition, it could be as broad, it can be as, honed in on a topic as you want it to be, honed in on an industry as you want it to be. It can be specific, it cannot. If you're not actually out there doing it and showing people your value proposition, no, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. So I would rather you have a generic value proposition and then you be out there being the kindest, sweetest human, helping everyone, right? Yeah. Than this amazing value proposition and you're not doing what you say that you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so, and the only thing I can think of is the one word that we lean on heavily is community. So that would just be like us, blowing up everybody's feeds and marketing all this community and talking about it on every video. And then everyone comes to our sessions and there's no community building happening and no one's, interacting with each other and no one's right. So it's just about that. And and it's hard, right? Because it's so easy in a group environment to lean on the group to do that. And we're very fortunate. We have amazing people in our academy that do that. However, I forget to do it sometimes, right? Because you're in a rush and it's busy. And we had a conversation before we started recording about it, how you're rushing around and it's easy to be like, okay, everyone, thanks for coming. And then like end the workout and everyone gets logged out. Whereas, you've got to try and build that and encourage that community, even when it's hard to do it. And you're off not that you're ever off the clock when you run a business, but when you're off the clock, right? You got to remember that and keep that, either be more authentic about your value proposition in the first instance, or just keep it front of mind. And maybe I need to write it up on the wall behind where my laptop goes. And then I'll always remember.
100%. And never doing anything. Don't promise anything in your value proposition that you can't deliver. For example, with my show, The Value Proposition, I open that up to fitness vendors, suppliers, companies, anyone that wants a marketing podcast opportunity to share the value of their company, of their people, ultimately to build brand awareness. Okay. So if you fit anywhere in there, we can try to make it work. If I know that I'm not the best show for you, or that I really can't get this to work, I'm going to tell you that, right? It's a paid podcast. I'm not just going to take your money and then not deliver on the show. And so I think the same thing goes, when someone comes on my show, I want to make sure that our goals are aligned. Is the goal of you coming on and using this as a marketing tool to build brand awareness? Or is it to directly get 50 leads, right? I'm never going to tell you that, if you do the value proposition, you're going to get 120 leads and I'm going to give you their email and their cell phones. And I'm not going to say that, because that's not how podcasting works, right? And we don't ever want to be too salesy. We want to share awareness. We want to tell a story. And that is what I claim to be the value proposition of the value proposition, right? So I'm not out here being like, oh yeah, you'll get X, Y, and Z. And no, because guess what? That person would not be very happy with me. They would not be very happy with their final product, and they'd be disappointed on the back end. So everyone out there, you can apply that story and example however that works for you, but don't say you're going to do things if you know you cannot deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, it makes me think of years gone by having conversations with trainers about, bringing new clients on and those promises of things, right? Like starting maybe like a 2 week, come and do a 2 week thing with me and you'll lose 25 pounds and, or come join our community. If I was pushing that and then saying, because these people lost this much weight or these people got this strong and you'll do the same, that's going to lead them to maybe not get that, right? And what we're trying to do, what we talk about all the time is consistency and how that builds results. So what I talk about is, hey, the community holds you accountable, it gives you consistency. It's pretty broad. It's true. And I know because I have the proof, right? And I know that's a big part of it too, what we were talking about. However, everyone's different in what they achieve. And if somebody doesn't get that, you're doing yourself out of business because, especially if you're in a gym setting as well, like online, maybe it's a bit different or maybe it isn't. But I remember being in the gym and hearing people saying, well, I went to this trainer and didn't get my results. And that could have been because they promised something that wasn't attainable for you. Or the opposite of that, and this is another point that's important if you're listening and you're a trainer, is taking on the right clients. Because if you're taking somebody on that's not going to do what you tell them to do and they're not going to stick to it, guess what? They're not going to get results and they're just going to say, well, you're a bad trainer because you didn't get me results, even if it was them. So it's kind of twofold, right? It can go both ways. So just be very careful with who you direct it at, and to your point, who you bring in to your world, right? And what you promise them.
100%. And you brought up a really great point. Again, if we're going back to the trainer example, I worked with a great personal trainer for years, and she would literally be comfortable enough in her own skin to fire clients. And I don't mean that rudely. It was a very nice letdown, right? But it was like, this is what you want. This is what I'm able to deliver. And it's just simply not working anymore. And that goes both ways, right? If that client is not listening to you, stop taking their money. Like, it's just not going to work, or at least have the conversation like, hey, I'm telling you to do this. You're not. You sure you want to keep paying me for this? Like, I want to make sure that we're really clear, like over communicate and just be so honest in how you make sure you are always working with the right people. Do a check on that weekly, monthly, whatever it is. Look at your client list. Look at your member list. Like, just make sure that you're all on the same page. I think that's really important too.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think when it's larger scale as well, something that I've been talking about a lot recently is when you have groups of people, you often have people that fall through the cracks, right? And you think about, maybe not on the same scale when it's a smaller online business, but definitely in a big box environment in a gym, is people are going to fall through the cracks. And there's always that that decision you have to make is, do we contact these people and remind them they've just paid us for a year of membership and have never been, with the likelihood that they might cancel and then we lose business? And there's that integrity that's so important. And we make a point of getting, within every few weeks, is just double checking if these people, we haven't seen them. We're at a membership capacity where between myself and my wife, my business partner, we know if we haven't seen someone between us. But yeah, it's going to that person saying, hey, you know what? You haven't been consistent. What can we do? Oh, nothing. I just, whatever. And I'll often just say to them, hey, do you want to just go on hold? If it's not working for you, do you want to go on hold for a month? Like, figure out what you need to figure out, come back. Most of the time people just say no, I'll be back next week. Because as soon as they get that account, and this is what we talk about, it's about accountability, but you have to be brave enough for that person to turn around and say, yeah, put me on hold. And then in 2 months say, oh, I think I'm going to cancel. Sure. You know what? Because you need to get your results and it's bigger than just us. Yes, I need to make money and pay my bills. However, if you're being, you're showing up authentically, and it's important that you make an impact on people, whatever that is, it could be fitness, could be anything, is have that just at the front of mind. I think that's so important for me to remember, but also for anyone listening as well.
Well, and you just hit on such a huge point. It's, what is the cost, right? Yeah, you may have someone pay you for a membership for 6 months and never use it, and that is technically revenue in your pocket. But what are they saying about your business to their friends, to their family, right? yeah, I've been a member of this gym for 6 months, nothing's happened, right? They don't know that they're not showing up for their workouts. So what is the cost of just that frozen member or just that grumpy member, right? Like it just doesn't, that doesn't add up. I'd rather be upfront with that person and give them a chance to leave, right? Not be my client anymore. And then they have nothing bad to say about you. Hey, they were actually really honest and they gave me all the tools and I just decided not to use it. So I'm out, right? And then maybe they'll come back, or maybe they'll refer someone that they know is more your speed. We have options now. So
yeah. Yeah. And I love that the whole, we kind of joked about the firing of clients, but this is something that, if you look at the greats that are out there doing amazing things, in the public eye as it goes to fitness trainers, a lot of them talk to that, right? Is having the right people, because you also want to enjoy what you do every day, which is super important, and having that ability to fire people. But yeah, have them, not have them, because there's something else for them, right? There's another way. Many people find us and many businesses out there it's not their first try. A lot of people turn up in our academy and they've been on all these fitness journeys and been all these different, and they haven't got what they want. And we hope that this is going to be the last jump they have to make into something new, but it won't always be the case. And sometimes they'll move on to something else, and that's fine. And it's also a bit like that in the fitness industry anyway, because new things come up, and people will move from thing to thing while still being consistent. So it's important to be aware of that, to be aware of what you're offering. Like we said, is not always going to be for everybody, and that's okay. And it's okay just to say good luck. I actually sent an email a couple of weeks back to somebody that went back and forward for about 3 or 4 emails, and it was like, oh, I'm not really sure, and I like what you're doing, but I think it's a bit pricey. I don't know if it's in my, and I was like, great. I was like, well, you know what, like, just to give you an idea, like, it's the same cost of, it's like $3 a day. It's just the price of a cup of coffee. So if you look at it like that, and we went back and forth, like, and I was like, at the end, I was like, you know what, I really appreciate your time sending me emails. Good luck on your fitness journey. If you ever want to chat again, send me an email, because I'm not spending another hour sending you another 3 emails. Like, if it's not for you, it's not for you. And that's okay. Like, I did my bit. I sold it as it was, as I, behind my values, but it was okay just to say, cool, good luck. Like, find something that works for you, because there is something out there. There's billions of trainers, as we said, that will help you out on your journey. So important.
I'd rather you do that than discount what your service is worth. And I'm going to say that again. I am not a fan of discounts. As a consumer, I love them, right? I'm waiting to get that, that coupon in the mail for that big purchase I want to make. But when you are delivering a service and how much your time goes into it, and how much you believe in it, and what energy you are going to put forward, what your product and service costs, right? So if someone is not willing to pay that, they either just don't have it, right? And that's just not going to work. Or you have not correctly expressed your value proposition. They do not understand fully what you are going to do for them. And there's a lot of options there. And it's just, you have to, go back to the drawing board and really, how are you going to get to this person? And that's, maybe that's never going to be your client. Maybe you've just missed the boat, right? But it's always a lesson on, if someone had the funds to work with you and they didn't, where can you go back to the drawing board and sell better next time?
Yeah. And would you agree, Sarah, to say that sometimes it might just be that they're not, like you said, they don't understand your value proposition, that they're just not ready to understand it yet? Like, they're not in the right spot. They might have an abundance of money. Either they're just not aligned, or they just don't understand. They don't understand yet, or they're not ready to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or they just don't want it. Or if it's a weight loss journey, product, fitness solution, that the decision to get healthy and the decision to get more fit is extremely personal, and it is different for every single person. So no matter how many testimonials or videos or great workouts you put on their plate, if they are not in the correct headspace to make that decision, you are fighting an uphill battle with that client.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually leads me to think of something else. And I feel like I'm going to give my business secrets away. Not that they're probably secret at all, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I think it's powerful. Is another conversation I had recently was someone asked, I actually think somebody asked it on a social media Q&A, like an Instagram Q&A, is why is your trial not free? And to your point, my response was, I don't give stuff away for free because it's worth more than that. I said it devalues it. When something's free, typically to me, I'm like, there's a reason it's free. So that's my first thing. That's my kind of, that's my ego response. However, when we dig into it, I've worked for 20 plus years, and this is what I tried to articulate through that message was I've been in the industry for 21 years coaching people. And I know that people have an issue with two things predominantly. One is commitment, and the other one is consistency. So if I'm going to give you one free workout, it doesn't take anything to commit to that really, other than just showing up, which can be scary. I appreciate that, but it is just one session. So if I gave away a free workout, someone's going to come. There's no commitment necessary. You also don't build any consistency doing that. And you don't understand what a community is when you come once, right? You don't turn up to your local, I don't even know of an example now, but you don't turn up to somewhere that's a community once and then go, oh, wow, yeah, I totally got a feel for this. Like you have to go consistently. You have to meet people. So that's why we charge for a trial and why our trial is 7 days long. To me, it's a no-brainer, but you have to learn how to, and I'm learning more and more how to communicate that without people going, oh, well, I'm not paying, it's $21. I'm not paying $21 for that. I'm like, okay, cool. When you're ready to commit to your health and fitness, you can come back with your $21 and we're good to go, right? But you have to be like, I have to be okay with that. I know that I get a lot less. People will go elsewhere and get something free. And I just have to say, I'm okay with that because I know that what we have is worth that, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes total sense. And I'm, again, even, yes, free. If someone has gotten something for free, how are they going to pay for it? Right? How are they going to feel paying for it? And this goes back to like 5 years ago selling for me. But if you discount something, please hear me when I say this. If you discount something, people will kick and scream when you bump it back up to the original price where you want to be every single time. Oh, well, I paid $50 for it last time. Well, that was a discounted price. Now it's $100, right? So it's again, going back to the drawing board, how can you make your value proposition so strong? And how can you get the best type of clients in your funnel in the first place so that you're selling to really qualified people that are able and ready to pay the price you're asking?
Yeah. And that's it, right? Like we kind of positioned it at approximately a little bit cheaper than what a week costs for that reason. So I'm like, you're understanding, you're seeing, okay, $20, this is what I spend a week, which people probably spend that, way more than that on coffee or eating out or whatever it is. So it's kind of in that around that number. So people get an idea, right? And like, this is what you're committing to. This is what you get for that value. Now just times that by 4. And what I will say is anyone that comes in and pays and does that trial, I would say, I don't know, 100%, but close to 100% of people will then just continue for multiple months. We're a fairly new business, so it's hard to quantify that right now, but multiple months, like they're paying a recurring subscription because that bit was the important part, right? And it kind of almost, this sounds really arrogant, but it weeds out a lot of the people we don't want. And I think it's so hard to do that.
No, I just literally last night had the conversation. I was out to dinner with a friend and they've just been on this incredible fitness journey and he has a gym that he loves going to. And I was like, I would love to come with you one time, like just get a guest pass and, explore your community, right? Like see what this is really about. And he was like, they have guest passes. It's like, $20 something for the week. And I didn't even think twice. I was like, perfect, because then you are committing to actually trying something. I see him working out every day on Instagram. That doesn't mean I'm going every day, right? It's like actually taking that next step. And I think historically, the fitness industry consumers expect that free guest pass. Yeah. And it's been kind of recent that whole trial period, like, no, put some skin in the game, put something on the line, pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it is a really hard thing to navigate. And so I get it. And I know people are listening that will have a million comebacks to that. And I hear it because I've been doing them all for so many years. And it takes a lot of time and practice to figure out exactly where you sit and be able to position yourself. And it doesn't always mean that you blow up and explode, right from day one because of that. However, long term, if you want it to be a long-term thing, and it is for me at nearly 40 and being 20 years in the industry, this is a long-term thing. Like it's not going to be a 6-month thing, right? I want it to grow. I want it to continue to grow. It's a bit of a legacy dream for me. So, if that's you and you're listening, you really have to consider where you want to be, 5 years, or how big it can be 5 years from now, and try and do the hard work now to make that a reality and be what you want it to be with the people that you want to be involved. So really important. We went totally in depth on that, which is great because that's awesome content. Although I do want to go back, because I feel like now a lot of people are probably thinking, oh yeah, that's right. I really need to have a better value proposition. Or I need to be able to communicate this. However, I think a lot of people, and then me the same, and I had to do a lot of work with a business coach initially before I started the business, how does a business or an individual create or figure out what their value proposition is? And then how would they even go about communicating that? And that might be a really, really tough question to answer, but I know you'll have something awesome to say.
So I think, other than just the obvious, but really just thinking deep into who you are, right? I'm a podcast host. Okay, great. Check. Who am I? I'm a personal trainer. Got it. Check. Who do I want to work with? What do I want to bring to the market? If you're asking yourself those questions and you're still like, this isn't as good as I want it to be, or I know it can be better. Here's what you do. You go to 3 to 5 of your trusted industry friends, colleagues, your mom, I don't know, someone,
Please no.
People that genuinely know what you are trying to bring to market, because sometimes it's so clear as day, but you have a very hard time verbalizing what it is that you do. So ask 3 to 5 people, close networked people in your life, what they think you do. And if you get the same answer consistently, boom, there's your value proposition. If we're all over the place and no one knows what you do, your value proposition is not good. And you need then we need to get a business coach. Then we need to read some books, right? Then we really, really need to drill into what it is you do. But I think you'll be surprised. And, when we built the value proposition, the owner of the Fitness Business Podcast and I together really took time to figure out what this show would be and what this show would not be. And again, just having another person to spitball ideas with, run scenarios with, go over what we're going to name it. It wasn't just about we came up with that, right? It was, we wanted a show for vendors and we wanted it to share the value of these companies. There you go, right? So really just take some time, be thoughtful of where you're coming, be thoughtful of how you're getting to the value proposition. And hear me when I say it can change. You can have one value proposition one year and the next year it be completely different because your business evolved. One of my dearest friends has a stationery company and she was a CPA. She went off on her own and she started a paper goods business. And she did cards, greeting cards, prints, all kinds of things. The highest demand for her business was wedding stationery. And she's killing it. So now not to say she doesn't do some other odd and end projects and Christmas cards and things like that. However, the primary bones of her business is wedding invitations and custom stationery. That didn't happen overnight. That business evolved and her value proposition has changed with that business. So I think that's something too. You can have one and you can always update it. Just make sure that you're telling your audience and you're telling your clients what your new value proposition is. I think that's super important too. Make sure as your business evolves, you are evolving in how you're showing what that business is.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that as well, just from a personal experience, right? Being a bit more generic with that initially, and kind of keeping the funnel a little bit wider. But now I look around, I'm like, okay, let's look at the demographic. Let's look at, there's a few outside, but predominantly people are busy professionals and busy parents. So we're like, okay, well, that's what we are. We get it. We're running a business. We've got a small family. Young kids. A lot of people in our academy are the same. So it's exactly that. Now I'm like, okay, now I need to talk to these people. And we actually just rewrote the schedule for September, which launches on Monday. it's exactly that. Like, I'm like, okay, where's this need to work? Okay, you will drop your kids off. I know a lot of these people have kids, so they're going to need sessions that are after 9, right? People are working, back to the office, and a lot of busy professionals are back in the office. So like, okay, we need more evening sessions now because they don't have the luxury of maybe doing lunchtime, which has been really busy for us over the summer. So yeah, I think you have to just continually, and it's that, right? It's that get the value proposition there, but constantly review who are you serving, not who you think you serve, who are you serving and who is there, because what we picture as who we serve is not always, it's like saying, oh yeah, I'm an athletic trainer, and all your clients are retired people in their 60s who aren't athletes anymore. I'm like, you're not an athletic trainer. You're training people that are retired, and that's okay. But look at that and say, okay, I can get more of these people, but maybe more of these people aren't coming because I'm telling everyone I train athletes. Not to say athletes can't be in their, 60s or whatever. Just put that out there.
An athlete. That's awesome.
That's some really, really good information that I think will help people kind of figure it out, because that's a lot of it, right? You might be hearing value proposition for the first time. You might be looking at a business saying, I think I know what our value is. However, dialing in on it and being a bit more specific about it. And I'm actually doing a business program right now, which is about attracting more people. And it's very much about the deep reflection. Like we're always told, schedule out 90 minutes in your day and sit and think about these questions. Don't just answer them off the top of your head. Like really think about who you're serving, what it is, who do you want to be, what do you want to deliver? And so I'm kind of experiencing that like literally live at the moment. So it makes complete sense that we need to do that. So what would you say, Sarah, is if you had to give, and you can just give one, but you can give many. I'm happy with that because I'm going to write them all down. What would you say are your top tips for building a rock solid value proposition?
All right, let's do this. Tips for building a great value proposition. Who you are.
Okay.
And you can write this down as a sentence, right?
Okay.
Who you are, what you do, and who you do that for, and or your business, right? So the value proposition is a podcast for fitness industry suppliers and vendors to showcase the value that they bring to the industry above and beyond their product or service. That is my value proposition. I say it at the beginning of every show. I write it. It's on the website. That is what it is. And that's pretty specific, right? Yeah. Fitness vendors, fitness industry. There's no bankers that are coming to me asking to pub their businesses, right? But that's what it is. And if, we brought up business coaches, but I think this is really important. A dear industry friend of mine, Shannon Fable, has a course and leads courses on figuring out what is that? What is your mission statement, right? How do you introduce yourself to the market, to the world? So those courses exist. So if you're struggling with this, you're not alone, first of all. Reach out to me, this is something that if your 3 to 5 close friends are not helping you with, if you're not getting anywhere, hire someone that doesn't know you at all, because they maybe will be the most honest or the most brutally honest. Sometimes you need that, there's options. And again, you never stop just refining what that value proposition is. So
I love that. That's incredible. And I honestly didn't think that when we first started chatting that it would be so, not to say that it's easy, but it's so simple. Mm-hmm. Everybody People knows that. Yeah.
They overcomplicate it. If you heard that and you were a company that was like, oh, maybe that show would be good for me. If you heard that one sentence, you would know whether or not we need to have another conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Or if we need to be engaging.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I think everyone's going to be scribbling that down right now. Hopefully it's safe to do so, but if not, you can just listen back again. I wrote it down, don't worry. So with that being said, so just to clarify who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. So if you are listening and you want to get that, I'll also write it in the show notes so you've got it at hand if it's not safe for you to write it down. So on the reverse of that, then, what would you say in your experience and what you see in the industry? What are the biggest mistakes that people make?
I love this one so much. How'd you know I wanted to answer this question? Being everything to everyone. Stop doing that. Do not do that. And I saw it, oh my gosh, Gareth, I saw it in the software and billing space so much. You would talk to competitors and they'd be like, oh, well, we're a good solution for every single size club. No, you're not. You're not, right? There's companies that work really well with large, big chains. There's companies that work really well with studios. There's companies that work well with the big box. There's companies that work well with the mom and pops. You are not everything to everyone. And if you set yourself up to be that service, how confusing for you? How confusing for your people, right? Like that's just, and on a very, very simple scale, again, with personal training, you're going to realize when you're starting out in your business, you may work with every single type of person, and that's great. But figure out who sparks your joy and who you enjoy working with the most, and then make that your ideal client, right? I'm not saying you have to know your ideal client right out the door the second you have your business, because you won't. You have to try stuff, trial and error. But if you've been in business for years, you should know who you enjoy working with. Really, you do. Another thing, and this goes back to when we were firing clients, I'm just adding it in because I think it's good life advice. Fire your friends, fire negative family members. And I do not mean that to be spiteful. I mean that to be, there's only so many hours in a day that you get to be your best self and to bring the best product and service to who you serve. And if there is someone that just is negative and not supporting you in that mission, maybe we don't give as much energy to that person. I have had to do that in my personal life. I've had to look at friends that just, every time I see you, I get so sad inside because you just bring that energy down, right? Clients do that, but close people in your circle can do that too. And just, again, as you're building a business, as you're figuring out who you are, you have to know who you're not, and you have to know who you don't want to be around.
Mic drop. Let's end the show there. No, we're not going to end the show. That is so important. I live by, and as you know, and many of the listeners will know, I host another podcast, and on the We As podcast, all we talk about and what we surround our entire, the whole conversation, the whole platform around is the quote of surround yourself. And it's exactly that. Like, you are going to be a reflection of, if you surround yourself with negative people, you're probably going to lean on being a little bit negative. If you surround yourself with positive people, and I get that can also be toxic, but surround yourself with the right people that support you, that are truthful and honest. So it's not, toxic positivity, but they are positive and they're going to see that, but they're also going to call you on your shit when you need it. And you need those people around, right? And I'm very fortunate to have a wife and a business partner who does that for me, so I don't even have to leave the house. And then when it comes to value proposition, it's the same thing, right? Like I say to her, I'll write a caption and she'll read it. I'll go, well, I'll read this for me. And she'll be like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, and I'll be all offended initially. And I'm like, but I worked so hard on it. She's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, what are you trying to say? So I'll tell her, and she'll be like, let me rewrite that. So if you want to have a laugh, you can go on the website and see the edited version of everything on the website that I designed, because it's all edited, because I wrote it all. And then she went, nah, doesn't make any sense. I don't know who you're talking to. No one's going to, and I'm like, okay, great. Rewrite the whole lot then, just change it. But you need that, right? You need someone to be able to say, and if you have the right people around you and people you trust, obviously I trust my wife, to tell me, you need to, you got to communicate that better. It needs to be whatever it is, and whatever it is you're doing in life, right? Like, you helps you be the best version of yourself. So important.
Yeah. I call it my little personal, like, hype men or hype women, right? It's like, who is going to be the most brutally honest to you, but is also going to be your absolute biggest supporter. And what I mean by supporter is, like, are they going to share that post on their social media? Even if it doesn't, like, if they're just going to share because they just love you, that is a ultimate hype man or lady. Like, come on, right? That is just, yes, all of it.
Yep. Yeah. People just supporting you, but then also sending you, like, I had a friend that do that to me recently. who's another online fitness coach, who like shared a post or whatever, and then he messaged me, he's like, by the way, that thing up there, move this because it looks shit. He's like, but I shared it. I'm like, all right, well, thank you for sharing it, and yes, I appreciate the feedback.
I shared it, but if you can fix it, that'd be super dope. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Tell me what's wrong with it, even if you kind of liked it. Like, that's so important. I love that. So impactful. I think there's so many great takeaways, and I know that I won't be surprised to hear of people re-listening to this episode more than once, because I think there'll be a lot of things that people want to be, I need to get a pen and paper and write that down. So powerful. A great experience for me. I love two things I love. I love when I get to learn. You know, I speak to a lot of people. I'm very fortunate to host 2 podcasts and get to have these great conversations, but they're even more impactful when I learn. They're even more impactful when I have to remind myself, and I'll be staring at the screen. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm meant to be hosting this, not just chatting. But it is that. And I love the, you know, it's not a fly on the wall because, well, I guess it is on YouTube, but it's it's the ear in the room, right? Against the door, listening in on a conversation. And that's what I always want my podcasts to be. So Sarah, I really appreciate you making that happen with your, amazing tips and, just getting stuck into the conversation. And I'd love to just hand it back over to you for anything else you want to share.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I am so excited to be here, so excited to share what I've learned in the past year. And I think that's my message, right? No more of an expert than anybody else, right? We all learn, we all have different trial and errors. And I am fairly, in the grand scheme of things, I am still fairly new in the podcast host world. I'm getting in, venturing into year 2. There's still so much to learn. So my value proposition could change, right? The value proposition could change. We never know what's going to happen. So show yourself some grace. That is always and forever my theme, is just like, grace changes everything. Don't be so hard on yourself. Have fun. If what you're doing is not fun anymore, revisit it. Just like you would your mission statement or your value proposition or the people in your life or anything. Life is really too short. I think we've all learned that in so many ways. It's just too short to be stressed, to have negative energy. So if something can be done to move forward, if you need to, talk to somebody, anything like that, do it. Take a step forward that's going to make you happier and just put you in a better position. And I'm happy to be that person. If you've listened to what I'm saying and you want to chat, my information, my email, my Instagram, I'm an open book. So let me know how I can help you. If you need help drilling down that value proposition, let's get at it so that you can get out to the world and do what you're meant to do.
I love it. That's awesome. Thanks so much, Sarah. And all of your contact details, everyone listening, they're in the show notes. So head on over there. Make sure you follow Sarah, see what she's up to. Check out the podcast. I'll put everything in there. And I just want to share that, and something that's really impactful for me right at the end that I'll finish up with is I love hosting this podcast and both my podcasts, and I love being a guest on podcasts. I always have fun. It's always impactful. Even the days where I don't want to and I'm tired or I've had a crappy day, I'm still a better person at the end of it every time. So I appreciate you listening, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, keep listening. And head over to the Nock Academy and check out what we're doing if you're not already a member, because again, we really pride ourselves in building a community where everyone has fun and enjoys what they do. And you know what, if you come in and you don't enjoy it, that's okay as well, because there's probably something else out there fun for you. And that's a real important message from the day. So thank you for tuning in for another episode. Please send us your feedback. Let us know. If you head over to the show notes, you'll find our Facebook page, which is specifically for the show. You can add in what you want to do. You can vote on our polls. You can tell us what you want to hear more of, what guests you want to hear. You can give us feedback, and we love it. And if you got something impactful, please share this with someone you love and care about. Give us a 5-star review on Apple if you can, because it helps boost up those listens and gets more people dialed in. So thank you so much. Whatever you're doing today, be awesome at it. Have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you on the next episode.